What's up, guys? I'm gonna make a new video. I was just watching something and it gave me some inspiration for a topic to discuss. The topic of this video is going to be expansion versus contraction. Could also be described as tension versus relaxation. So in life, we're all trying to expand, really. When you're chasing more money, you're trying to expand. When you're chasing more experiences, you're trying to expand. When you're going to the gym to get gains, you're trying to expand. When you're trying to talk to more girls, get more girls, you're trying to expand. No matter what you're trying to do, you're trying to expand. You want to become bigger, not smaller. And some could say that's greed. And in some circumstances, it can be greed. However, expansion is essentially is the core desire of life itself. It's not even to do with individuals. It's life itself that wants to expand. It's the universe that wants to expand. Of course, I've discussed in some of my other videos where I'm speaking more about the absolute nature, that reality, if you want to be completely accurate about it, at the highest level, reality wasn't actually created. It was uncreated because it's outside of space and time. Time and space is just a phenomena which occurs within reality. It's not something that reality is subject to itself. So reality is eternal. And it wasn't ever created through a particular process. However, when we speak about the dualistic plane, the relative plane within which we are all incarnate, where life occurs, this is all within duality. This is all within time and space. So when we're speaking about the physical universe, this is up for debate, but one of the most widely accepted theories of creation is the Big Bang. And if you think about it, what is the Big Bang? It's just an explosion of infinite expansion. And it just expands and expands forever. It can be argued that because this happens within time, in a sense, and within duality, and because it had a beginning, that eventually it will reach like a sort of peak or a threshold and then collapse in on itself and have a big crunch. That's up for debate. But I would argue that if that's the case, that it will eventually explode again. Anyway, the main point is just to show that the universe itself desires to expand, and that's why life desires to expand. That's evolution. You're always trying to climb higher on the evolutionary ladder. You're trying to expand more. However, in the modern times, in this capitalistic society, which is also, in a sense, coming from the same core desire for expansion. It's just that we try and do it through profit. The problem is that we're all trying to expand through means of acquiring more material, because we believe the world to be material. And all this material is finite in nature, right? So there's only a certain amount that we can get. So trying to always get more and more material is a losing game, in a sense. And when there's more, like a higher population like there is now, and there's less resources, then there's less to go around, and everyone's kind of battling for scraps, right? And this is what kind of causes this tension and contraction, because everyone is trying to even in the kind of social media, everyone's talking about lock in. Need to lock in 2025. Need to grind. Never stop the grind. See, that's like tension and contraction. Like you're trying to grind to get more grinding. Like that's not gonna work. To some degree, you do need to work hard. As I said, as I've explained in my money, energy, and zero-sum game video, there is a correlation, like a direct correlation, like you could draw a graph of effort and reward, so to speak. And the more effort you put into something, the higher the reward will be over time. So that is true. You do need to put in some effort. It's just this grinding and contraction that is the problem, because it's difficult for me to explain this, but as consciousness, as life expands, it's impossible to expand in a contracted state. See, tension is contraction. Like literally, when you're tensing, you're contracted. That's literally what contraction is. It's tension. And contraction is the opposite of expansion. So what I'm trying to explain is that you can only really expand in a relaxed state. You need to be relaxed. You can't be like grinding and tension and all of this kind of stuff. That is literally opposite to true expansion. Right? And when I look back on my journey of seeking truth, attaining to certain realizations, most of my realizations occurred when I was in a completely relaxed and expansive state. I would have never been able to see. It's also another analogy is like open and closed. See, when you're like contracted, it's like you're closed. When you're relaxed in an expansive state, you're open. And that's what allows for these downloads to occur and these realizations. And so there's also this you hear nowadays things like manifesting things and attracting them to you. Like attract things to you, allow things to come to you rather than chasing them. Of course, you have to work towards something. You can't just sit down, do nothing, and then just say, oh, it's just going to come to me. Like, no, you have to put in some effort. But you becoming obsessed with something and chasing something, it's like you're actually repulsing it away. Like if you're, just think about the word chasing. If you're chasing something, that means that whatever you're chasing is running away from you. Do you understand that? It's like literally as you're getting closer to it, you're repelling it away further when you're in this state. Because that's like in the contracted state. But then when you're open, like you can do a little bit of effort towards your goal, but you're not really thinking about the outcome. You're not putting any deadlines, things like that. That's when it will essentially in the end attract you, if you was even supposed to get that thing in the first place. Because there's certain things that, of course, it's different for every individual, but there may be one individual, no matter what he does in his lifetime, he will never become rich. and there's another individual who he could do all the wrong things, and wealth is just his destiny. He'll be destined for wealth. He'll do one little thing, and then he'll become viral. Things like this. Like people talk about that hot tour girl or whatever. like and you see different instances of stuff like this. Like some people, it's always just eventually if they're supposed to get that thing that they desire, they will get it. And some people, no matter how much they desire, no matter what they do, how much they work for it, they'll never get it because they were just not destined for it. But usually, whatever they end up like getting instead of that will actually be more beneficial to them. They might not realize it. They might not have like a wide enough perspective to be able to see that actually it was more beneficial for them to not get that. Usually that is the case, right? We think we know what we need, but usually we don't know as much as we like to believe we do. Right? So essentially my whole message is just that if you really want to expand, you can't be in this tense state. Right? Like, and this happens like on a subconscious, like unconscious level. Like you have to even be able to feel in your body, like you'll feel the tension in your body, even when you're feeling like relaxed, like in quotation marks, where you feel like you're relaxed, like because there's different levels of tension and there's different levels of expansion and so on. So you could be in a state where you call yourself relaxed, but then like there's only like a threshold of like relaxation that you can get to. Like you can't even get more relaxed than that because there's like a certain tension that is being held in the body that you might not even be aware of it. Yeah, and you're tense and like feel it in your muscles and all of this stuff. Even when you're trying to relax and you're still tense, that's when you know like you're going too far. And this even it is suggested by some. I'm not sure if it's completely true, but it does make sense to me that like too much tension, all of this kind of stuff, it actually can cause illness and disease. One moment. But yeah, I do think that that's possible. I mean, people have died from hypertension, things like this. And I think that's why there's so much. Of course, there's a lot of chemicals in the food and so on, but there's a lot of these new diseases coming up nowadays. It's because everyone is so tense. And it's because, again, they're caught in the illusion of trying to chase more material gain. They think that they can only expand by gaining more material or gaining more profit, like seeing more zeros on your, like, nowadays money is not even like paper or anything. It's literally just digits on a screen. And those digits on the screen are made out of just pixels on the screen. You're just seeing imaginary things. Of course, the purchasing power and so on, like these things aren't just completely imaginary. Like what they represent, it does represent something real in a sense, but we take it too far, right? We take it too far. And like, you have to realize, like, how many times have you wanted something? Like, oh, you wanted a new bike or you wanted this new gadget or this new thing, and then you buy it, and then after you're excited for a day or two, but then after you realize like your quality of life, it just always remains the same. Like no matter what you get or what you lose or anything, over a decent amount of span of time, it's just going to remain the same. Like nothing can add on to you really, nothing can subtract from you, like physically, like no material can add on to you or subtract from you. It's only your actual spiritual self that can really expand, and that can only happen in a completely relaxed, balanced, and And that's the only way you can really expand, is through complete relaxation. Like, there can be no tension. There can be no tension. Because, like, the tension is, like, blocking your expanse. It's like, think of it this way, right? Everyone, and why do people want so much money and all of these things? Of course, yes, it's for enjoyment and so on. But even people, there's cheap thrills. Like, poor people can have fun as well, right? So really, one of the main reasons is security. We all want security, right? Because we're running away from the harsh truth that life itself, the nature of life, is insecurity. And I made the video of that. Like, you can only find security in death, not in life. You may think that, I have this much saved. I have $1 million in the bank. Now I'm secure. You can lose that $1 million tomorrow. Like, literally, it's even impossible to even have money. We kind of say, like, that money is mine. Like, no, that money is not yours. It's just in your possession at this particular moment. And money always moves. Money is like water. It's like a currency. It's flowing, cash flow, liquidity. Like, money always moves. That's why we have to keep accounts for where the money is. Because it flows like a riverbank. Like the banks with the money. See, money is always flowing. Energy is always flowing. Energy can't stay still. That's literally what energy is this oscillation. Right? So you might think that, by saving this much amount, now I'm secure now. Now I can, like, rest and be like relaxed. But you can lose that money tomorrow. Like, literally, you can get wiped out at any moment in time. This delusion that you have money, like, you, at any given moment, doesn't matter what your bank account says, you have zero money. You have no money. Like, this is all, like, psychological, like, the psychology is completely warped. Right? But we want security, but that's the problem. Life is insecure by nature. So when we want security, how do you like get secure? It's like you start building, like, boundaries around you. Like, think about, like, how it was, especially back in the day with like a kingdom, and then the king's walls, and then now it's like with countries and the borders and all of this kind of stuff. And it's like you create so many boundaries and, like, protections, layers of protection around you. Like, that's the contraction. Like, you're trying to contract and tense and block from the outside. And then the more you try to, like, block from the outside and block yourself from life, the insecurities of life, then you end up actually trapping yourself in. You trap yourself in your own, like, box. You imprison yourself. See, because think about it. We want security, but if you really wanted, like, if you wanted the highest amount of security, like, what would be the most secure thing? It would be if you was locked in a room by yourself. You never went outside. You never, like, interacted with anyone. You never did. See, but then you're basically dead already. You see what I'm saying? And this is what's happening with everyone. We want to become so secure and block the uncertainties and insecurities of life that we end up incarcerating ourselves. We end up, like, imprisoning ourselves in our own prison. Right? And that's what's happening with all this tension. So you have to be able to actually relax. Like, you won't even be able to fully experience life if you don't know how to keep yourself relaxed. Keep yourself without tension in the body, in the mind. You can work towards certain desires, but you don't put deadlines on it. You don't really care about the outcome. You think if it's supposed to be, it's going to happen regardless. I'm going to do what I can on my end in a relaxed, calm manner. I'm not going to be tense, chasing it, doing this and that. And then, like, I need to get. Like, see, you're trying to, like, grab onto, like, this is like the energy of, like, the ego. It, like, wants to grab onto things. Everything is impermanent, right? Like, your relationships, they're impermanent. Material is impermanent. Any kind of thing that you get, You can buy something, a PlayStation, this or that. It's gonna break eventually. Like the law of entropy. Everything breaks. Everything disassembles. Everything like arises and falls because that's the sine wave. That's the oscillation of life, of energy. I've told you, peaks and valleys. If something arises, it must fall away. Of course, some things have a longer lifespan, which gives them the appearance of permanence. And especially because we as humans only live for 100 years. So we have a very limited scope. So certain things seem like they're permanent. And then that gives us the illusion. There are some things that are impermanent and some things that are permanent. But no, everything is impermanent. The only constant is change. So trying to hold on to things like it's just going to cause you more suffering. You're trying to grab onto things, this tension, this kind of energy. Grab like one a good archetype for this is I haven't really even watched all of those movies, but I've seen enough clips. You know that guy in the Lord of the Rings, Gollum or something. My precious, like that's literally that energy. Like you're trying to grab onto this thing and like hold it forever, never let it go. Like nah, you can't do like, and that's what you're trying to do like with life. You're trying to even hold on to life forever, and then when you try to do that, then you actually kill yourself in the process. Because life is just like a flowing river of energy, right? So you have to learn to, and this is what meditation and all these things are about, is just learning to actually just settle down with life. Like, just relax. And that's the only way you're even going to experience any kind of bliss, any kind of ecstasy of spiritual states of consciousness. Like, some people have never experienced this. They think that it's an illusion. Like they think that experiencing bliss and these things is like some illusion. Like it's not an illusion. I myself have experienced these states, and these states I've only ever experienced when I'm in a completely relaxed, expansive state where I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about what's in my bank account. I'm not thinking about like, did I get this girl or did I get that girl or like something else. Like, I'm not even thinking about anything. I'm just literally so relaxed and like just so at peace with the truth that is this current moment, this moment that's right before your eyes. See, because when you're even trying to get more money and you're trying to get more material and all of this stuff, it's like you think the grass is greener. You think the grass is greener on the other side, and you're actually judging and rejecting this current moment because you think this moment's not good enough. I need more, and then it will be good enough. See, but then when you get to that moment, and then you think, oh, like tomorrow when I get that thing, it's going to be good, right? But then you get to tomorrow and you get that thing, and you're happy for an hour, but then you think, oh, but like, yeah, like now that I've got this, that's good. But it'll only be complete when I have this now as well. See, and then like it never ends. Like you can always add on something else. You can always like think of a better way that is. And because as I've explained, because this is relative in nature, right? Every perspective that you have, there will always be like, no matter where you are, like you can think that, oh, I'm here, right? And then there's some human who's at the top of the world or whatever, but there's no human at the top of the world because no matter what any like individual perspective is, there are levels which will be above them and which will be below them in reference. Like every single human has like things that could make the situation that they're currently in be better and things that could be worse. No matter how bad of a situation you're in, it could always be worse. And no matter how good it is, it could always be better. So trying to like play that game, you're never going to win. So it's actually just about becoming so accepting of this moment that is right here, right now. Like the only truth that there is, this moment right here, like accepting it and relaxing rather than saying, no, this is not good enough. Like, let me tense up and grind so I can get over there where it's good over there. You see what I'm saying? And that's even why doing breath work and meditation and so on, this is so important. Because think about it. What was the first thing you did when you were born? You breathed in. And what's the last thing you'll ever do when you die? You'll breathe out. So in a sense, your breath is almost like your life force. And this already shows the peaks and the valleys, the oscillation, the duality. The breathe in, that's kind of like tension, and then breathe out. That's expansion, relaxation. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And there's a rhythm to this, you see? And that's what you can kind of pay attention to, like in your meditation, instead of focusing on your thoughts. If you're more advanced in meditation, you don't really need to do this to get in a meditative state. But especially for beginners who don't meditate a lot, just focusing on your breath. That's literally it. That's all you have to do. You just sit down with your eyes closed and your back upright so you don't fall asleep or anything. And you just focus on your breath. You don't even need to make your breath be like long, deep breaths. You don't even need to do that. You don't need to make it fast breaths or anything. You don't need to change it. You just become aware of it. And actually, as you become aware of it, you'll start to notice that it was like kind of like your breath was like contracted already by itself. And then once you become aware of it, it will naturally start to become deeper because you'll start to realize tensions in your body that you weren't even aware of. And then like the more relaxed you become, the more you will expand and you'll start to kind of merge into this meditative state where you just become completely aware of the whole moment. You become aware of everything that's around you, what's true. And these realizations just come to you naturally. There was like one quote I heard somewhere that's quite good as well, is that nature doesn't rush. Nature rushes nothing and yet accomplishes all. See, that's like you're trying to become more with nature. Nature, like hear that again. Nature rushes nothing. It rushes nothing. It has no deadlines, no anything, and yet it accomplishes everything. And it's just because it sticks to its own natural rhythm of things. The cycles, the rhythms, it just happens naturally. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to, like, winter's gonna come anyway. Summer's gonna come anyway. Nothing that you do or anything is gonna change whether summer comes or, see, like, these things, like, and same with, like, winter and summer. Same as breathing in, breathing out. It's the same as, like, like harvesting the crop and then yielding your the farming language where like you plant your seeds. So there's like a season for like planting the seeds, and then there's a season for like harvesting the crop. You get what I'm saying? There's a season for you to work hard. There's a season for you to reap the rewards. It's gonna happen anyway. You don't want to only be working hard or only reaping rewards and all this stuff. Like this is the cycle of life. You see? You just have to learn to just become relaxed with it. Stop even trying to skip time, like you're trying to skip to tomorrow or skip to next week. Or you're at work and you're watching the clock and like, oh, I'm trying to skip to the end of the day. Like, stop trying to skip. Stop trying to like get to somewhere else other than here. Here is eternal, is absolute. That's the only thing that there ever is, ever has been, and ever will be. So you think, oh, when I'm on holiday or when I have this much in my bank, I'm going to be cool. But then you don't understand. It's going to still be you there. You're going to be in that moment to fuck it up again. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get like 6 figures, and then you're gonna start thinking about 7 figures, and you're gonna be on this holiday thinking about that place to go on holiday. You see, that's like how the mind works. That's how the ego works, because it's always incomplete. It's always in this tense, like, state of captivity. Just contemplating if there's anything else to say. Just trust me when I say that the bliss and ecstasy and joy that can be experienced in these expansive states of pure relaxation are far more valuable to life than any amount of pounds or dollars in your account. No money can buy you this kind of bliss. Money can buy you pleasure, but pleasure is like fleeting. And pleasure, the more you seek pleasure, the more you become addicted to the objects of pleasure. And each time you engage with that object of pleasure, the peaks are going to be lower. It's going to be lower highs. And really, that's what happens with a lot of these addictions. Is it's not that they're not satisfying at all, like ever. It's that usually what happens with most people, it's happened to me, it's happened to you probably, is you might have had an experience with this particular object of desire or pleasure in the past. You had one or two or a few experiences where it really hit the spot. It was just amazing, right? And unknowingly, unconsciously, you're trying to always relive that one time, but it will never happen because you can only ever experience something once. And when it comes to the biology and the wiring in your brain, that same stimulus is not going to give you the same peak, because really dopamine is not just linked with pleasure like experiences. It's linked with kind of novelty and experiencing new things. So when you first had that first peak with that experience and so on, it was probably one of your earlier times where it was still something new to you and you was like, wow, like it blew your mind, right? And now it can't blow your mind anymore. You've experienced it. You know what it is. But you keep on trying to relive that moment, but it will never happen, right? So that's the problem with pleasure. Pleasure is still fine. You can still have pleasure in your life and so on, but you have to know the limitations of it. Whereas bliss, joy, these kinds of states of consciousness, because think about it, even when you buy material, why? Why are you buying it? Because it makes your consciousness feel good. You feel good in your consciousness, in your mind. You feel happy. Right? Like material can't do anything like to your experience per se. It's just that you interpret that object to be good. So, and you got it, and then now you feel good in your consciousnness. So you don't care about the material itself. You care about how it makes you feel, right? So if you can make yourself feel this way without objects, then you're winning, right? And this is what these monks and so on are doing. And I'm not saying all monks and all spiritual people have attained to this, but the real ones, the ones who really know what they're doing, that's why they're like that. They're not giving up material life because they were told to, or it was just some crazy vow. They genuinely have transcended that. They genuinely have no desire for those things because they feel good without it. They don't need it. And that's the difference between bliss, ecstasy, joy, spiritual bliss and so on, and just material pleasure dopamine hits. Because material pleasure dopamine hits makes you feel good in the short term, but it requires that object, and you need to keep on buying it and keep on working. And that's what you don't understand is you'll work and so on and grinding and going through all that pain to buy that object of pleasure, to get that pleasure, right? But then your brain separates the two. It thinks, working is pain, and then when I get my object of desire, then that's pleasure. But your mind isn't even linking that all that pain, literally that pleasure. In order to get that object of pleasure, you need to pay and so on and so forth. And so the more you want that thing, the more you're going to have to suffer first to get it. See? Because you have to realize life is a zero-sum game. So when you realize there's actually nothing to get, that's when you'll realize, it makes sense to start learning meditation and these things where I can experience this bliss and joy within myself, within my consciousness, without having to like do something and pay for an object to give it to me. Because you generate it within yourself. You are the one that even made that object appear good to you. Like, see, because think about it, you've had experiences where like there's like a certain experience that you've had that made you feel good, but someone else had it and it didn't make them feel good. It's because of how your perception is that made it feel good. It's not that that thing is objectively good, right? And then even you, that thing that made you feel good one day, but then like a few weeks or months later, it didn't. It's because, see, that was your particular subjective experience that made it feel that way. So it wasn't the object, it was your mind. So it's the power of your mind. It's not any of these objects, right? So yeah, and then when you rely on objects of desire that you need to pay for and so on, you're going to need to go through pain to obtain the currency to pay for that object of desire to give you back that pleasure. And then it's just going to equal back out to zero anyway. So why go through that whole ordeal when you can just sit in silence and feel bliss? See, you're cutting out the middleman. You're going direct to the source. It's not about like trying to like live some boring life or something like, like, so you're saying I can't fuck these bitches, can't do this and that. I'm not saying any of that, but I'm just saying like, you can actually get to a point to where you don't even need this stuff because you feel so good in yourself that why would you need something else? Why would you need something extra? Because you have everything right now. I think I'm gonna leave that one there. Hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers.